So let's hear what Norman Osborn has to say. Hey everyone, welcome to Prince the Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with episode 2 of your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Yeah, we're already back with this. This is one of the new shows we're starting this week, and I felt like it was a fun choice to add on to Tuesday, because we're adding a second show on to Tuesday rather than having just the one, just Invincible. And I thought, like, I talked about in the first impressions of this that I really liked. I really wanted to continue it, and that I might actually push it forward to kind of the front of the line. And so I thought about it when I was like figuring out what I was going to what new shows we were going to bring up for this week, and I'm thinking like I'm going to do that. I'm going to push it to the front of the line. We're going to get to it because I just really want to get to it. I really love what they did with the first episode. I love the style of it. It's so beautifully stylistic. I've talked about this before with other things, but I tend to prefer stylism over um, quality, for lack of a better word. Like, you have, like, games, for example. I prefer stylistic games over games that just focus on having high quality graphics, and especially hyper realistic stuff. It's like that can be good from time to time, but I prefer when games have a specific style, a unique look to them that makes them stand apart. It allows it allows games to really feel like something special rather than just be another cog in the machine. Hyper realistic graphics aren't really as impressive to me. It's like it looks nice, I guess, but I'd rather have a game that has like quirky character designs any day. And this series is definitely about, you know, a unique visual style. It has a very comic booky style. And it seems to be running very similarly to, I believe, the Tom Holland Spider-Man, because there's a lot of things that are actually kind of taken almost directly out of like Civil War when Tom Holland's Spider-Man was introduced. The DVD player, I believe, was one of them that walk through the hallway when he's entering his apartment at the end. Even with like Norman being there, that was like obviously an alternate version of with Tony Stark being there with Aunt May. It's kind of mirroring that, and considering we're in the multiverse saga of the MCU, and that this is a part of the MCU, just part of the multiverse, it makes sense. This is like an alternate universe take on that, where Peter is, you know, clearly going to be mentored to some degree by Norman Osborn instead of Tony Stark. Now, as to where that's going to lead, don't know. What that's going to do to him as a character, what that's going to like how that's going to change him, I don't know. But it's going to be interesting to find out. Um we also do get a bunch of new stuff though. We have interactions with Harry, who's voiced by Zeno Robinson. We have his crush on Pearl, who is a character from the comics. I found out. We have his. I think all of the characters are originally from the comics. They're just some lesser known ones. Like, because even his friend, I can't think of her name right now, but even she's a character from the comics. Um, she's not like an original character for this series. I've just never heard of her. um, but you have some really fun stuff at the beginning with like Doctor Strange and the symbiote creature. It's really setting up a lot, but I think some of my favorite parts from episode one were the stuff with Lonnie, because they're really developing Lonnie into like this big character for this series. Usually, Lonnie Lincoln, aka Tombstone, is either a pretty minor villain within the Spider-Man stories, sometimes working for other villains like Kingpin, or he's kind of like a reformed villain, like in the PS4, the PlayStation Spider-Man games. Um, like in Spider-Man 2, which we played on the channel. He actually has a little bit of a role in one of the missions and all with both Peter and Miles. And, or no, it was not Peter and Miles, it was Peter and Harry, actually. So it's interesting, they're kind of going through like a backstory thing here, and I'm kind of thinking they're probably going to do the origin of Tombstone with all of that, but we'll see. We'll see. Um, And then the second scene I really liked in this was the scene where Peter catches the woman who had taken the money from the pizza shop, brings her back, and uh, convinces the pizza shop owner to let her go because she was down on her luck and desperate for money and everything. It's like it was the most Spider Man scene I've seen in almost anything. Like, and that includes the other MCU projects with like Tom Holland and all. Like that was as Spider-Man as it gets. That is what his character is all about. That was the scene that really won me over to this series. It was so good. I do kind of wish that because there was the entire sign on the door that said like, oh, now hiring, that he had offered her a job or that Peter convinced him to offer her a job. But maybe that will come back. Maybe that will actually come back in the future. That would be really cool. Now, I'm going to be upfront and honest with you. I have heard one thing about this series going forward because it's been everywhere on social media. I'm not going to go into it until it comes into play. I think it's probably this episode or next episode. But there's a character from the original comics and, stories and everything, a very well-known character who comes into play in this series and is different than how they are originally portrayed in a very notable way. And there's a certain group of people, certain group of viewers that bitched about it, and it's very clear why, and it's very clear it's just ridiculous bigotry. I'm not going to go into like the specifics until it comes into play because some of you watching this might be watching it alongside the reactions or whatnot. Though I am, not exactly on course because there's like 5 episodes I think released at the time I'm putting this up. I think the next set of episodes comes out tomorrow, I think. But just in case you didn't see that and want to remain spoiler free, I'm just being cautious here. Um, but when it shows up, I will talk about it, like in very much detail, because again, it's something I have unfortunately heard about because it's been everywhere on social media, and I very much have a strong thought on it that I want to talk about and hopefully don't get too heated about. I'll leave it at that for now. But I will be talking about that. Some of you might already know what I'm talking about. But like I said, I don't know if it's going to be this episode. I don't know if it's got to be this episode or next episode. It's got to be, right? Because I think it was super early on. I think people were saying that it was early on, too. I don't know. Well, no, because the first 2 episodes were released at once. And then the next 3 were released together, right? Because it was the first 2, and then there was 2 weeks that are going to be sets of 3, and then the last week's going to be another set of 2. Because that makes 10 in total. So then it would have to be this episode, I think. Because I think it came out before the second set of... I think that was around, like, going around the internet before the second set of episodes came out. We'll see. We'll see. If it's not in this episode, then it's somewhere in the second set, for sure. But we'll see. I'm very excited to watch more of this, though. Like, that first episode was so impressive. I like the music. I like the opening theme. I have watched that opening theme so many goddamn times. I've talked about this before with other shows, like Ghost and Molly McGee, or Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, when you have an opening theme that just it really fucking slaps, like I will spend so many hours just watching it or listening to it on repeat. I am not fucking kidding you. I'm autistic. I tend to hyperfixate on things sometimes, and really good opening themes, or even sometimes ending themes to animated shows, tend to be one of the things I will hyperfixate on really easily. I did so with like the Dan to Dan theme for anime and stuff. Or even back when I first heard the Dororo theme, I definitely hyperfixated on that. But yeah, it's just really good. I've heard some people like bitch about it and bitch about the lyrics being not super creative. It's like shut the fuck up. It's a really fucking great theme. I even saw one person say on Twitter, it's like, oh, the Spider-Man PlayStation 1 theme was better, and they posted the video and I listened to it, and it's like, this is shit. Well, okay, it's not shit, but it doesn't sound like a Spider-Man theme. It sounds like maybe Batman, maybe X-Men, something more gritty and dark. It doesn't fit Spider-Man's vibe at all. It is so like ill-fitting to the character. It's not funny. Yeah, it may be a fine song, I guess, if you're into that. I didn't find it that great. But it's like, while saying it was shit might be a bit of an exaggeration, it just didn't fit the character in any way, shape, or form. While this one very actively fits the character and just fits the vibe and tone and everything. But anyway, I'm not going to rant about that forever. Just something to note. Yeah, let's get into this episode, see what we have in store, and hope that this continues to be as spectacular as we would hope. Hold up just a second there. Before you click that link down in the description below to go to today's reaction, I just wanted to take this moment real quick to remind you of all the awesome content we have on the channel. Between Monday and Friday, we have a plethora of awesome series reactions, with 2 on Wednesday. We also have movie reactions every Saturday and Sunday. I do pre-record them during the week, but upload them on the weekend. And don't forget about all the awesome gaming content over on the Princess of Gaming channel. Every single day of the week, we have some awesome Let's Plays for you. A bunch of different things to check out, and more coming in the future. And don't forget to click that subscribe button or like the video if you really enjoy the content I'm putting out. There will be more to come in the future. In the meantime, thank you so much for tuning in, and let's get this going. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So yeah, like I ranted about for a bit in the reaction, I knew about Dr. Connors and everything. It was just everywhere on social media. I wasn't able to avoid it. Like I said, I don't mind because it's not something to mind about. Anyone who actually gives a shit, and especially anyone who actually bitches about it, it's like, grow the fuck up. There's nothing wrong with making Dr. Connors a woman of color. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't affect anything. And you just need to stop being racist assholes. Like, just shut up. and there are some people who would say like shit like, oh, but then why is it a bad thing when you take a character who's a person of color and change them to white? I wonder if there's like, hundreds of years of slavery and racism that kind of changes the context of things. I wonder if a lot of media didn't portray people of color in a very flattering way for a good amount of television and film's, life cycle. I wonder if people of color have just had a lot less opportunities and a lot less representation in the world throughout the years, and taking away that representation to change it to a white person kind of, really kind of comes across as excessively racist. I wonder. It kind of feels like a bit fucking different, doesn't it? Like, Jesus fuck? People who say that shit are so fucking stupid. It pisses me the fuck off. And I'm sorry for getting like aggressive here. I'm sorry for getting angry, but it's like that shit. I needed to touch on that because I've heard people like say shit like that before. And I wanted to make sure I addressed that too. Like people who say that shit and who try to like force an equivalence there, it's just like fuck right on off. It's like I really hate people who do that shit. It's like people of color like have gone through so much at the hands of white people, and I'm speaking as a white person. And it's like you're gonna say some stupid bullshit like that. It's like it's already bad enough they're like bitching about something that's a non-issue like this in the first place. It's just fucking racism. It's just. Let's move on. Let's move on to better things. So, while the first episode was about kind of introducing us to this Peter, this Spider-Man, this world, and kind of like drawing some parallels with the Peter of the MCU, the Tom Holland Spider-Man. This episode was more about the entire, for lack of a better term, work-life balance with Peter. And in this case, it's actually work-hero balance. It's actually three different things he has to balance. Because he has to balance being Spider-Man, he has to balance his internship at Oscorp, and he has to balance, um, school and family life and friends and everything. That all I'm kind of bunching together because it's all like kind of pushed together in this series so far. So yeah, it's kind of its own third for this. But yeah, that's what this episode mainly focuses on, and we kind of see like how that like is shown. We see how he gets this internship from Norman, and he's going to be, paid for it. It's a paid internship, which you don't always get. Some internships are for like the experience and whatnot, and you don't actually get paid for it. But I've heard a lot of people, especially in recent years, talk about that entire thing, and it's like, if you're doing the work, you should be adequately paid for it. And I agree with that. I fully agree. I think like internships should never be experience only. You should be paid for it. If you're doing actual work, if you're like, even if it's to a smaller degree, you just don't get paid as much. Like you get paid what you like based on the work you do, of course. Like, yeah, you're not going to get as paid as much as like a full-time employee. No, of course not. But you should absolutely get paid. And so seeing that even Norman Osborn, even someone like him, is offering to pay his interns, it's like, if someone like Norman Osborn can pay his interns, I think anyone can. It's Norman fucking Osborn. He's not the most ethically correct person. Um, but we get to meet these various characters here, including Amadeus Cho, who is a character I've seen in various pieces of Spider-Man media and various Marvel media and whatnot. He's a known character. I'm not sure if I know the others though. This Wakandan girl is super fucking adorable. I will say that. She is so goddamn cutesy, and I think that's pretty fun. I think she's kind of adorable. You also have this other one there who's just kind of there. She doesn't really stand out compared to the others to me. And Dr. Connors, of course, is great. Really nice personality. Really like warm and accepting towards Peter compared to Whitman. But of course, the big twist at the end with this entire thing is that Norman finds out that Peter is Spider-Man. I'm very interested to see how that goes because, I mean, obviously we knew, like, in the MCU, um, Tony knew that Peter was Spider-Man, and he helped mentor him and stuff. And it seems like it's still going that way with just Norman now. But obviously, a lot of the specific aspects and specific situations and circumstances are different. The entire fight with Butane was pretty fun too. I like the creativity of that and having to protect the pets in the pet store once it went to there. Also, the fact that this guy just got the wrong street and wrong building is fucking hilarious. But he did at least make sure that the people were out of the building first. He did make sure not to burn it down while there were people in there. I do actually kind of appreciate that. It shows that he does have some sense of morality. He's not like a horribly evil person. He's just kind of crazy. He didn't seem to have qualms about attacking when there were animals in danger, though. Just people, I guess. But we see how Peter has to worry about the balance as well when he's like, at work. He's given a 15-minute break, but then he ends up seeing on the news about this burning building and has to leave and be Spider-Man because he has this innate sense of justice and of helping people. It's what he wants. Of course, again, this is what causes Norman to find out and to have the security cameras and everything. But yeah, he also gets back very late. Like during the fight, he said he was already 25 minutes late, or 25 minutes into his 15-minute break. He probably didn't get back until like 10 minutes after that, so yikes. Over twice as long as he was supposed to be gone. Not great. Though it seems like the others weren't as like upset with him. Though when he was like called into Norman's office and they were like all like, ooh, it's like, oh my fucking god, you're all children. Even Whitman was like that. His smug ass face. It's like, my fucking god. Like I can understand it from the others, from the other interns because they're all young and all. But this dude, it's like, shut the fuck up, Whitman. And at least like Dr. Connors was nice about it and like was like, sorry, Peter. Is like, yeah, she's great about that, but like, oh my god, shut up. The ooze, it's like a kid being sent to the principal's office in school. Like not even high school. I said high school in the reaction, but it's more like middle school and below. High schoolers don't really do that shit anymore. Not at least for the most part. Maybe some do, but at least when I went to high school. Granted, that was like over a decade ago now. Jesus, I feel old. I am 33, god damn it. Uh, you always see these questions about like if you could go back to being a teenager, would you? It's like fucking yes, I would. Especially with the knowledge I have now, absolutely, because then I would have come out a lot sooner than I did. Would have helped a lot with my life. Would have also caused a lot of issues, but yeah, still. Anyway, but yeah, and then he also promised Nico that he would go to the party with her that she was not really super enthused about, but she wanted to go and hang out with him and everything there because it's very clear that she's really not really dependent on him, but it seems like she's not great with people, and Peter is someone who she just really connected to since they first met during, the entire attack by the symbiote and Doctor Strange, coming in to save the day. They really bonded with that, and she needed him there. She was super awkward about everything and had a lot of troubles, a lot of yeah. It's like I get that because growing up and even into adulthood, I tend to, because of my autism especially, I tend to really connect with people. Maybe sometimes not in the healthiest way, admittedly. Um, and I tend to almost rely on them, like to feel safe and to feel comfortable in certain situations. So I know exactly what it's like, and I'm not big with parties myself. Like I go to like board game parties, um, every so often, but those are like I'm playing board games with people. That's different than just going to a party and, talking and drinking and stuff. I've never really done that. That's not my vibe at all. um but yeah, it's pretty wild, pretty interesting to see that comparison here, or to make that comparison with myself. Also, Nico is queer, and I'm very queer, so hey, there's also that. Maybe I'm just Nico. Um, yeah, pretty good episode though. Like, really touched on some interesting things, and I like touching on the work life kind of balance with Peter Parker. I think it really just nails his character very well, especially when he is still in high school, because the entire kind of like school life balance is something that high schoolers tend to go through, having to deal with like homework and stuff. And then when you add in like those who play sports, or those who are in like after school clubs, or those who do have jobs, it's like that also adds in another level to that kind of stuff. So it's just really interesting. There's a lot of fascinating elements to that, and I really like seeing that portrayed with Peter Parker, with Spider Man, with Miles as well, of course, and any other Spider Man. I really love just all the Spider Verse characters. Really, they're just all great. But yeah, it's nonetheless really great to see. Um, I do want to say I didn't mention this in the reaction, but there were some parts at the very beginning when Norman was talking to Peter at the apartment, where Norman's mouth lip sync was a little off and looked a little weird. That was like the only scene where I noticed issues with that, but I did notice it. It wasn't like too distracting to where it's like I really needed to like point it out at the time. It didn't like destroy the scene or anything, but it was noticeable. It was noticeable for sure. And it might have just been like a little lower animation point in the episode. It wasn't like that big of a deal. But I wanted to point that out too, just to make sure that you all understand that I do notice that stuff. Sometimes it just doesn't bother me as much. But yeah, it was noticeable. Um, I'm definitely interested to see what other kind of villains we get in this, because we know from the opening that Scorpion's going to be in it. I wonder if we're actually going to get Lizard. That would be really interesting. Um, since we're already establishing Dr. Connors, I wonder if we'll get Lizard this season or in like a future season. That's another question too, because it depends on how much I guess they want to establish Dr. Connors first. I also, by the way, really love that they did not talk about her missing arm at all. I'm really happy they didn't like make a point of that or draw attention to it. And I'm really especially happy, for example, that Peter didn't say anything. Like, I feel like that could have been very cringy if like Peter's like, "Oh, what happened to your arm?" or anything. No, it was never even brought up. It was just not a thing. No one cared. No one was, gonna be like weird about it. I just really like that. I think that's just really cool to see. It's just not made a point of it all. So yeah, um, there's a lot to love about this. This series is just really great so far. The soundtrack's amazing. The soundtrack's phenomenal. Um, I'm really excited to see where this goes, especially with it being released the way it is. I wonder if that's going to be important to anything. Like, are the batches going to have like different like focused like I guess mini arcs in some way, or is it just how they decided to release it? It'd be interesting if like the next three episodes, since they were released together, had some kind of mini arc to them, and then the three episodes after that, and then the final two, while continuing the same ongoing story elements and everything, of course. Um, but yeah, there's so much they can do with Spider-Man because of how like interesting and diverse of a character and rogues gallery and whatnots that it entails. And there's so much they can do also with the fact that this is, an alternate to the MCU, an alternate universe in the MCU. I mean, they're already like showcasing stuff like with Captain America. They're mentioning Iron Man a lot. It's like this is a world where superheroes exist, where they have had some level of these heroes. We don't know if it's to the same degree as in the mainline MCU universe, which I keep saying the mainline MCU universe or some variant of that. I never remember the number. Is it 616 or something like that? I know that's one universe. I just don't remember if that's the MCU one. I'm not good at numbers. But yeah, it's like it's clear that this is a world with superheroes, so the idea of Spider-Man isn't even that weird. I'm thinking that being at Oscorp and everything, Norman's gonna help him like upgrade his suit and his tech and everything now that he knows. He really is gonna play a mentor figure. But I think the big difference here is that he's going to become Green Goblin. He's going to be a bad guy. And him and Peter are going to end up having to go separate ways and are going to have to fight. Kind of, I guess, similar to in the Spider-Man games for the PlayStation with Peter's relationship with Doc Ock and that. I assume it's going to be very similar. Um, which is going to be interesting to see for a number of reasons. Especially considering Norman already knows that Peter is Spider-Man. So, gonna be interesting to see like how that goes. I don't think he would be someone who would rat him out though. Based on what we've seen of this version of Norman so far, I don't think he would be someone to rat him out even if they did end up like becoming enemies. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. But like I said, I'm very excited to see more of this, and I'm glad that we're getting to this pretty much right away. I'm glad we didn't wait on this for who knows how long, like we've done with other shows. This is something I very much wanted to push forward to the front of the line, and it proved to be the right decision. This is spectacular so far. But tell me your thoughts in the comments below on episode 2 of your friendly, bleh, not your favorites, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Thank you so much as always for tuning in, and for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.